Yep. So it's very similar. So on the left screen here is the actual video game itself, and
Mm-hmm.
it's a full 3D environment with uh, it's like an apocalyptic kind of scene. So I can kind of manipulate and use the environment any way I want. Now normally, if I want to move these soldiers around inside the environment,
Mm-hmm.
you have to program all that in. So you
Right.
have to script them to talk, you'd have to script them to move, you'd have to script them to animate, so on and so forth. So what we've done is we've built a tool, and this is called Cinema Director,
Mm-hmm.
and here's our timeline editor here on the right screen, and you can see it looks very similar to an Adobe kind of Premiere or a video editing software,
Right.
but it allows us to control the game engine. So
Mm-hmm.
it just takes it one step further. So if I look at what the game scene sees, and I kind of scrub through the timeline here, you can
Right.
actually see these events happening. So I'm controlling the ship flying through the scene. I'm controlling how the camera moves and pans. I'm controlling the next camera cut. So now it's gone into a different, sequence where it's on the soldiers and this ship comes flying in, and so on and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
And we really have a very wide range of control over what we can do as far as moving objects around. So we can keyframe them. We can
Right.
kind of, um, tell the program how those objects need to behave, and we can
Sure.
go quite in depth with that without having to actually program anything.
Mm-hmm. The small part that you just did there, I've been to locations in the shows actually that have shown teams and teams of people on the floor writing
Right.
each part. And what you're doing here basically can be done just by the click of a button. You're putting something in the
Correct.
scene. There is some work to be done, but really you've made it simple, saying it's just a sliding timeline. I want
Correct.
the plane to go from here to here. Let's make that happen. And
Yeah, and
the perspective.
that doesn't just have to happen in an actual cutscene cinematic.
Mhm.
We can also trigger those events while the person is playing the game. So you're a character, you're walking, or whatever type of game, sports game, whatever you're making. If you need things in the background to move, or birds to fly by, or trees to move, or things to explode, we can control all that with our editor instead of having to script all that as well while you're playing the game too.
Right, right.
So, you do all that, you kind of put everything together, and then you kind of get something like this when you go to play the game. And everything you're seeing here has been done just with our software.
Wow, and the quality is phenomenal.
Yeah, now we're right inside the software, and I have a lot going on, but we can render this out to a full video. We're only on a laptop right now, but when it's on a full PC, it looks
Sure.
quite dramatic.
Right,
And
right.
we can use all sorts of different camera effects to simulate what this person is seeing as he's waking up out of this groggy state of being hit. But that's just an example of some of the things that you can do with Cinema Director.
Right, right. Now, how long, just as a guesstimate, would something like that normally take a full editing team to do?
It could take weeks.
Yeah, and that's putting it in perspective. I mean,
Right.
you've really narrowed down that whole margin.
Yeah,
so that's
I mean,
phenomenal.
depending on as far as all those sounds, the placement, the mixing, all the motion, the movement, weeks of work, and we can do it in something like this. Once you're familiar with the tool, we can do it in hours.
Oh, that's great. Wow, thanks very much for showing us that. So Ben, thanks very much for having us on your part of the design here. So we just saw a little bit of the movie, and there was a little bit of real live cinema as well as some 3D animation. So maybe you can explain to us how all that ties together, and of course what we did a 3D print of, because a lot of people probably don't even know what that part is.
So thanks for having me, Rob. So yeah, what you saw before was the animation side of the Unity engine, the tools we're building.
Mm-hmm.
But I have coming from a film background, very interested in the application of the film industry for these tools.
Sure.
And using the game engine, which has its own physics, where you can actually put in the real world location, and then the same kind of things that you can use on the gaming side. Make it snow, make it rain,
Right.
time of day.
Mhm.
What we've done is we've gone and met with equipment manufacturers and got the real data from the cranes and the dollies and
Right.
from the lenses and the real cameras. So essentially, a filmmaker can use the game engine as a sandbox and try to see if equipment will fit and try different,
Sure.
camera placements and make crucial decisions and collaborate with their team before they ever get on set, which saves a ton of money.
Of course, yeah, because before you would actually have to take 500 shots of the same angle, nighttime, afternoon, day, whatever the case is, and then of course by the time they get it to the cutting room floor, most of it's garbage.
Sure.
So what your product really is allowing them to do is to check all that stuff out ahead of time. The actors and actresses show up, and you're done.
Yeah, you can check fit to see, okay, I want this dolly shot or I want this camera move, but gee, this location's not going to allow that. Like, I just can't put a crane in this area, so I'm going to have to think of a new way to get that shot.
Right.
So you're troubleshooting before you get on set and spending a ton of money.
And even in that kind of prequel where they were showing like the making of the movie, they actually discussed a lot of that, saying, okay, we're going to try this camera shot. It's not going to fit. We got to move this, camera crew around. So they already have the logistics really worked out far before they get there.
And so what we're offering as an on-set service is you can take our previs tools and put your movie and all the scenes on a tablet, and then you can go to the different camera departments and say, okay, this is what the director had in mind.
Right.
Let me show you what's going to be in the scene and what the camera's going to see.
Fantastic.
And that's a great communication tool.
Right, right. So now this little unit that you've got hooked up here, it looks like it's meant exactly for this tablet. So
this is the 3D print that just came out of that machine, and basically, yeah, it's made for the tablet, so it should, knock on wood, just fit right in. So.
Might as well.
So the idea here is that you've got the software running, you got the scene running,
right,
and the PlayStation Move camera is picking up your movements, tracking your movements, and then you've got your scene here, which you can, move the camera and start to,
I see.
decide shots. Okay,
So
do
I
I
can-
want to be close to the gas station?
Right, I can turn left and right. I can walk straight and take a look at the car.
And then you'd press record, and you'd be able to get that natural camera movement
Right.
as you flowed through and moved these,
That's amazing.
and change lenses with the buttons.
Sure.
So that's the idea between this virtual cam.
That's amazing.
And then that would fit into your timeline on your director project that you saw from that Dan was working on.
Right. So this is literally like I'm walking through the scene. I can just keep doing my thing, find out exactly where I want all my cameras to be far before we get there.
Yeah.
That's great.
So it's just one extra tool that we can offer directors.
Right, right. Wow, fantastic. And what a great little idea that you can just kind of remanufacture these as new technology becomes available.
Absolutely.
I mean, this is stuff right off the shelf, and if tablets become a different size or you want to use a different type of a tablet, even right down to the controllers, you can just remanufacture out of your 3D printer a brand new piece.
Yeah, these are very inexpensive because they're kind of PS3 technology. We're moving to the PS4.
Right, right.
So, it's a very inexpensive way to get that James Cameron camera,
Yeah.
virtual cam. And like you said, we'll go to the next gen for PS4, and the Connect 2's coming out. So
Yeah.
it's great to be able to use that printer and make these parts to fit these different systems.
What a great toy. That's great.
So there you
And
go.
of course it isn't a toy, it's a really expensive little piece of material here, but honestly, this is just fantastic. You've really made this simple.
For the movie that you saw, we also, because the director lived so far away from the location, he lives in Niagara and the location was in Toronto.
Right.
We built this tool where essentially if you wanted to get up in the middle of the night and walk around the location and plan a new shot, we're using this Oculus Rift VR
You can see it up
device.
there moving as you're moving it as well.
Yeah,
That's
and it's
great.
got head tracking, and we've got the scene here from the movie. As you'll see here, there's the car and there's the gas station, and you can use this to walk around. But if you wanted to put this on and try it.
Absolutely. I'll be the guinea pig for today. There we go.
And essentially,
Wow.
let me see.
So as I'm looking up, I'm looking at the moon,
So you're looking up at the moon.
trees.
And the next gen is to actually have equipment. So you can,
Wow.
here, I'll give you the game console, or the game pad.
Oh, excellent. Okay.
So here you can walk around and go inside the store if you
I
want
see.
and turn around. So you can
Wow.
walk in there. So essentially the director, like I said, he can walk around his set and kind of plan out shots and think, okay, you know, I had that one shot of the guy coming out of the car plan, but maybe it's better if I go,
Wow.
you know, overhead
Whoa.
and try that.
I'm a little wobbly. I can actually feel myself walking to the back where the stab scene would be. That's amazing.
So it's, you know, a really good tool, additional tool to kind of pre-plan your movie. So
Right,
this
right.
is where we're using the same technology in a new application, which is for the film industry.
Right. And I can walk right back out the door. I feel myself even getting a little wobbly just doing that. So.
But you can see that, you know, rather than having a piece of paper with a picture on it,
Yeah.
that this is much better representation of.
And even the car scene, I noticed that that you know they had the tracks where they were moving the movie camera around. They were curved.
Yeah.
And before they were talking about where that was logistically a little bit of a problem, getting between where the gas pumps were.
Right.
And moving around the car. So those are all things, once again, that can be all worked out ahead of time, which is great.
So the next gen of this is there's a tablet where the cinematographer will be able to toggle the different pieces of equipment for the director who's looking through that piece.
Right.
So
right.
rather than here where you're kind of stuck in one mode, the cinematographer would say, okay, here's what it looks like with this lens. Here's what it looks like with. So you can picture
Right.
the director laying down and seeing helicopters fly over if that's a scene and trying different lenses. And it's a
Right.
really kind of a visual tool to plan your movie
And it's
out.
immediate. So you don't have to worry about doing all these shots and then going back and saying that just simply didn't work. So you can actually try it, almost try before you buy. You're just trying it ahead of time and saying, great, this is exactly what I want with this lens, exactly this camera angle. So,
Absolutely.
wow, what a phenomenal product. Thanks very much for showing me that. That's great. So hopefully we'll be able to take a look at some of your other units here as you start getting them together
Absolutely.
in the next little while. I
Yeah.
know you're doing some pretty exciting things with other cinematography companies as well as your own, so we'll probably have to revisit you and see where you've come from and where you're going to a few months down the road.
So we had the opportunity to work on that 3D movie, and we're talking with some large film companies about getting this on set.
Right.
And we're a part of the union now, the IATSE 667 Cinematographer Union.
Right.
So if people want to book us for gigs,
That's great.
You know, we're union ready.
Excellent. That's wonderful. Well, thanks very much for showing us that. We really appreciate it.
Cool.
Great seeing you again.
Thanks, Rob.
Take care.
Appreciate it.